Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins are entering the 2025 season with a mix of anticipation and strategic curiosity, as news about their opponents begins to shape expectations for the early weeks. The biggest headline, at least for Week 1, comes from Indianapolis, where the Colts have finally settled their quarterback battle. Anthony Richardson, whose dynamic running ability kept defenses guessing last year, will cede the Week 1 start to Daniel Jones, a quarterback who embodies a more controlled, conservative style of play. This decision is significant because it gives Dolphins fans a clearer picture of what to expect on opening Sunday, allowing the coaching staff to focus on preparing for a passer who lacks the explosive athleticism of Richardson but may be more predictable in his tendencies. For Miami, the matchup against Jones presents both a relief and a challenge. While the Colts' offensive ceiling may be capped, the Dolphins must still respect his ability to manage a game efficiently, especially after watching his short passing precision during prior encounters. Daniel Jones's designation as the Week 1 starter highlights the stark contrast between the Colts' quarterback options and underscores a broader theme in the NFL: the tension between upside and reliability. Last season, Richardson demonstrated flashes of brilliance with his legs, accumulating team-high rushing yards even in games where his passing was inconsistent. Conversely, Jones has carved out a reputation for being steady and measured, yet his career has included stretches where consistency was far from guaranteed. For Dolphins observers, this means preparing for a game that will likely involve short passes, a controlled tempo, and heavy reliance on the Colts' supporting cast, rather than expecting the high-octane improvisational plays Richardson is capable of generating. Miami's defensive scheming will need to account for this nuanced threat, focusing on containing quick reads, maintaining lane discipline against potential scrambles, and minimizing the impact of Jones's more methodical but effective passing strategy. The history between Jones and the Dolphins, including the 2023 encounter, provides a foundation for such preparations. Reflecting on that 2023 meeting, Jones's efficiency was noticeable, though it came with significant trade-offs. Completing 14 of 20 passes, he orchestrated drives that were largely short and methodical, but the Giants' inability to reach the end zone without a defensive touchdown illustrates the limitations of his offensive approach. The Dolphins, having capitalized on sacks and pressure in that game, understand that while Jones is less likely to make risky errors compared to Richardson, he also presents fewer opportunities for defensive breakdowns to create explosive plays. This dynamic shifts the strategic emphasis for Miami. Instead of bracing for an unpredictable, dual-threat quarterback, the coaching staff can plan for sustained drives, ensuring that pass rush rotations, coverage schemes, and linebacker positioning are optimized for a quarterback who will methodically test their alignment. It is a matchup that rewards disciplined, patient defense over opportunistic gambles, reflecting a subtle but critical tactical pivot. The Colts' quarterback resolution also sheds light on Miami's broader approach to opponent analysis, particularly when evaluating risk and potential exploitation. While Daniel Jones is framed as a safe, consistent starter, the Dolphins' scouting reports remind us that he has had periods of inconsistency and vulnerability in his career. This dichotomy allows Miami to plan for the predictable aspects of his game while remaining alert for the occasional mistake or poorly timed throw that could open scoring opportunities. Additionally, the contrast between Jones and Richardson reinforces the value of adaptability. The Dolphins' defense will face different challenges depending on which quarterback steps onto the field, from containing mobility to pressuring timing-based reads. Week 1 against Indianapolis therefore represents a nuanced test, one that could set the tone for the early season, influencing confidence, tactical adjustments, and the perception of Miami's defensive capabilities against teams with varied quarterback profiles. Turning attention beyond Indianapolis, Cleveland's quarterback situation adds another layer of intrigue for the Dolphins' 2025 schedule. The Browns, after a summer of speculation regarding Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, have opted to start veteran Joe Flacco in Week 1. While Flacco offers experience and familiarity with complex offensive concepts, his limited action last season exposed struggles that Miami may look to exploit when the teams meet in Week 7. The potential mid-season evaluation of Gabriel or Sanders introduces uncertainty, meaning that Miami's preparation must remain flexible, emphasizing adaptability to different quarterback styles. Even Kenny Pickett's recovery from a training camp injury could alter the Browns' plan by mid-season, adding another dimension to the Dolphins' scouting and game planning strategy. This evolving quarterback landscape underlines the importance of continuous intelligence gathering and rapid adjustment to ensure Miami's defense is effective regardless of the starter. The Cleveland matchup emphasizes that quarterback consistency and preparation are central to Miami's defensive philosophy. Facing a veteran like Flacco may allow the Dolphins to anticipate reads, pressure timing-based throws, and exploit known tendencies. Conversely, if a younger, more mobile quarterback is eventually elevated, defensive strategy must adjust to contain improvisation, scrambles, and rapid decision-making. These contrasts demand versatile scheming, including situational pass rush adjustments, coverage rotations, and potential hybrid linebacker assignments. For Dolphins fans, this evolving scenario adds both anticipation and analytical depth. The early season game against Flacco will set a defensive baseline, but the Week 7 matchup could feel markedly different depending on Cleveland's quarterback development. The coaching staff's ability to pivot effectively between these possibilities may define Miami's success against a team that mixes experience and emerging talent. Meanwhile, Buffalo's safety situation raises questions about Miami's offensive approach in Week 3. The Bills, known for defensive resilience, are navigating a personnel challenge with Taylor Rapp's secondary partners. Cole Bishop's limited experience and injury interruptions, coupled with Damar Hamlin's inconsistent performance, create openings that Miami may look to exploit. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle could be pivotal in stretching coverage, particularly if the Bills' safeties struggle with assignments or miscommunication. For Dolphin strategists, understanding Buffalo's defensive tendencies under these constraints is key. Route adjustments, pre-snap motion, and timing patterns may create mismatches that allow Miami to gain early momentum in a primetime setting. The interplay of veteran coaching, young talent, and targeted exploitation of defensive gaps underscores the nuanced chess match inherent in high-level NFL planning, highlighting the opportunities for Miami's offensive game designers. Beyond opponent analysis, Miami has made direct moves to enhance its roster, signaling intent, and proactive adjustments for the 2025 season. The acquisition of linebacker Matt Judon and cornerback Cameron Dantzler Sr. strengthens defensive versatility and depth, while the departures of Tarek Black and punter Ryan Stonehouse reflect strategic trimming. Judon's experience, including 41 total tackles and 5.5 sacks in 2024, provides immediate pass rush capability and situational impact. Dantzler adds coverage stability and veteran insight for a secondary that must handle high-caliber receivers across the league. These additions demonstrate Miami's commitment to a balanced roster, improving both pass defense and coverage flexibility. Integrating these players effectively will be essential in executing game plans against opponents like the Colts, Browns, and Bills, particularly in matchups where quarterback tendencies and safety vulnerabilities intersect with Miami's defensive strengths. Roster decisions also communicate the Dolphins' philosophy regarding balance between veteran leadership and emerging talent. Judon's signing offers edge pressure, experience in critical third-down situations, and versatility to support both run defense and pass rush schemes. Dantzler's presence strengthens positional matchups, particularly against dynamic wideouts and slot receivers. Meanwhile, roster cuts like Black and Stonehouse reflect a willingness to optimize the active roster for immediate impact, prioritizing positions that align with the team's strategic goals. For Dolphins fans, these moves signal preparation and competitiveness, providing reassurance that management is actively enhancing the team's ability to respond to opponent vulnerabilities. The alignment of acquisitions with upcoming matchups underscores the holistic approach to roster construction, blending performance data, positional needs, and tactical foresight. Finally, as Dolphins fans digest news from the Colts, Browns, and Bills, the broader picture of Miami's 2025 season emerges. The combination of opponent quarterback decisions, defensive vulnerabilities, and strategic roster adjustments creates a rich narrative of anticipation and tactical awareness. Fans can appreciate both the challenges and opportunities inherent in these early season matchups, particularly the chance to capitalize on defensive inconsistencies, manage quarterback threats, and leverage newly acquired talent. The interplay of scouting, preparation, and on-field execution will determine how Miami navigates these critical weeks. Ultimately, the Dolphins' early season performance may hinge as much on their ability to exploit opponent weaknesses as on their own internal cohesion, creating a dynamic, high-stakes narrative that promises excitement, analysis, and dramatic football storytelling throughout the season. This season, more than ever, demands that Dolphins observers remain vigilant and analytical, tracking not only the headline quarterback decisions, but also subtle roster shifts, injury recoveries, and defensive adjustments that could influence outcomes. Every matchup, from Indianapolis to Cleveland to Buffalo, presents unique variables that challenge coaching intuition and player execution. By integrating opponent news with strategic planning, Miami can maximize its advantages and mitigate vulnerabilities. The Week 1 opener against Daniel Jones, the midseason test against Flacco or his eventual successor, and the primetime contest against a transitional Bills secondary collectively shape a roadmap of opportunity and caution. In essence, the Dolphins' journey through 2025 is as much about preparation and adaptability as it is about talent, offering fans a compelling story arc that intertwines analytical depth with on-field drama, promising a season of strategic intrigue and potential triumphs. The convergence of opponent developments and Dolphins roster enhancements sets the stage for a season where attention to detail could dictate success or failure. By understanding Daniel Jones's limitations, monitoring the evolving Browns quarterback situation, and exploiting Buffalo's safety challenges, Miami positions itself to compete effectively across diverse scenarios. The integration of Matt Judon and Cameron Dantzler further augments these strategies, providing tactical flexibility and reinforcement for critical matchups. As the team navigates the complex dynamics of each opponent, preparation, anticipation, and adaptive execution will be key. Fans can expect a narrative that blends statistical analysis, player development, and game day adjustments, emphasizing the importance of situational awareness and tactical planning. In the end, the Dolphins' ability to synthesize opponent intelligence with internal talent management will define their early season trajectory and create a compelling storyline for the entire 2025 campaign. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? The news that has been circulating like wildfire among NFL fans, insiders, and social media platforms is nothing short of shocking. Tyreek Hill is no longer playing for the Miami Dolphins. This revelation feels almost surreal, given the explosive impact he had on the team since arriving from Kansas City. Hill was more than just a star receiver. He was the heartbeat of the Dolphins' offense, the kind of player who could turn a simple slant route into a game-breaking touchdown. When people think about the Dolphins' resurgence in recent seasons, his name was always near the top of the list. And now, suddenly, the chapter has closed. No official word has come yet about the exact circumstances, whether it was a mutual separation, internal conflict, or a bold front office move. But one thing is certain. The NFL landscape just shifted dramatically, and fans are left stunned and asking the same question. What happens now? Speculation is swirling in every corner of the football world about why this decision was made. Was it a matter of contract disputes, hidden locker room tensions, or perhaps something personal that spilled over into professional territory? Tyreek Hill is known for his fiery competitiveness and unapologetic personality, traits that can electrify fans, but also sometimes spark friction behind closed doors. The Dolphins, meanwhile, are a franchise desperately trying to break into consistent contention status, and they knew Hill's presence was critical to quarterback Tua Tagovailoa's development. Without Hill stretching defenses and forcing secondaries to respect the deep ball, Miami's entire offensive scheme might look dramatically different. This is not just about losing a receiver. It's about losing a strategic weapon that changed the way opponents approach the Dolphins every single week. The shockwaves will be felt across the AFC East, and every rival is surely recalculating their defensive game plans. Adding to the intrigue, insiders have hinted that the decision may not have been entirely performance-based. Hill was still among the league leaders in yardage, speed, and big play potential. His connection with Tua was among the most dynamic duos in football. So why let go of such an asset at this point, when Miami was closer than ever to becoming a true powerhouse? Some reports suggest that disagreements between Hill and the coaching staff over play calling, practice routines, or even long-term vision may have reached a boiling point. Others whisper about behind-the-scenes negotiations where egos clashed and patience wore thin. The Dolphins' front office has historically been bold, but this feels like a gamble of unprecedented proportions. Fans, meanwhile, are already debating whether this was the right call or if it marks the beginning of another frustrating cycle of rebuilding, just as hope was reaching its peak. For Tyreek Hill himself, the possibilities are endless, and the rumor mill is already churning at full speed. Teams across the NFL would salivate at the chance to add a player of his caliber, and it's not hard to imagine franchises like the Buffalo Bills, Dallas Cowboys, or even the New York Jets quietly inquiring about his availability. Imagine Hill catching passes from Josh Allen or Dak Prescott. It sounds like the kind of move that could tilt the balance of power instantly. Yet there's also the question of whether Hill has a specific destination in mind, perhaps a reunion with familiar faces in Kansas City or another contender where his speed could be the missing piece. Wherever he lands, the headlines will follow, and the cameras will turn. Few players command the spotlight like Hill, and this sudden exit only heightens the sense of drama surrounding his next chapter. Miami fans are understandably devastated, because Hill was more than a superstar. He was a symbol of belief that the franchise could finally rise again. His jersey sales skyrocketed, his highlights flooded social media, and kids across South Florida imitated his famous peace sign gesture whenever they scored a touchdown in youth leagues. Losing that kind of energy is about more than just statistics. It's about losing the face of a new era. What happens to Tua now, without his favorite weapon? Can Jalen Waddle shoulder the responsibility of being the true WR1? Can the Dolphins' run game and defense compensate for such a glaring loss? These are the questions echoing through every bar, sports radio show, and comment section online. The answers won't come quickly, and the uncertainty only fuels the fire of speculation. For now, all anyone can do is sit back and wonder if the Dolphins have just made their most costly mistake in years. One angle being widely discussed is the potential financial motivation behind this bombshell. Tyreek Hill's contract was massive, and while his production justified the price tag, Miami's salary cap situation has been tight. Could the Dolphins be freeing space to pursue other stars, perhaps strengthening their offensive line, defensive front, or even positioning themselves for a quarterback move down the line? These kinds of business decisions are brutal, but not uncommon in the NFL. Still, when you lose a generational talent like Hill, fans rarely accept cap space as an adequate explanation. Money may keep franchises afloat, but passion keeps fans invested, and right now that passion feels betrayed. If this is the case, Miami's front office is betting that the long-term benefit outweighs the short-term heartbreak, but only time will reveal whether this was a masterstroke of financial planning or a catastrophic miscalculation. It's impossible to ignore the ripple effect this could have across the league. Defensive coordinators who used to lose sleep trying to contain Hill's speed may now breathe a sigh of relief, while offensive coordinators on potential new teams are already drawing up plays in their imagination. The AFC East, a division already stacked with competition from Buffalo and the Jets, suddenly feels more open, and that could completely reshape playoff predictions. If Hill ends up on a rival team, imagine the narrative: twice a year facing his former teammates, torching the very defense that used to cheer his scores. That kind of storyline is what makes the NFL thrive on drama, and you can bet broadcasters and networks are praying for exactly that. Hill's next move is not just about football. It's about television ratings, fan engagement, and the theater of professional sports at its highest level. Another dimension worth mentioning is Hill's personal brand, which has always been larger than life. He is not only known for his on-field dominance, but also for his presence off the field, whether it's on podcasts, social media, or community appearances. This departure from Miami adds another dramatic layer to his story, and you can expect him to speak on it soon, likely in a way that generates headlines. Hill is not the type to remain silent when there's a narrative swirling around his name. Whatever he says will likely ignite further debate, either defending his stance or throwing shade at the Dolphins organization. That, in turn, will will keep this rumor alive for weeks, if not months. Hill knows the power of his voice, and fans are eagerly waiting for his perspective. Until then, the silence only fuels the mystery and leaves room for endless theories about what truly went down. From a competitive standpoint, it's heartbreaking to think about how close the Dolphins were to truly breaking through. With Hill on the roster, they were seen as dark horse contenders, capable of shocking the Chiefs, Ravens, or Bengals in the playoffs. Without him, the narrative shifts drastically. Suddenly, Miami looks like a team searching for answers rather than a squad ready to take the leap. That's the cruel reality of the NFL. One player, especially one as transformative as Hill, can swing the outlook of an entire franchise. Coaches will have to scramble to redesign their schemes, front office executives will face relentless questions, and players in the locker room will be left wondering if management truly believes in their current core. The sense of momentum has been fractured, and rebuilding that trust with fans and players alike will be one of the greatest challenges Miami faces moving forward. Ultimately, the confirmation that TYREEK Hill will no longer play for the Miami Dolphins feels like the end of an era before it truly began. This was supposed to be the story of a superstar receiver lifting a franchise back into relevance, a partnership that could rewrite history and inspire a new generation of fans. Instead, it has ended abruptly, with more questions than answers and a future clouded by uncertainty. Hill's career will undoubtedly continue to shine, but for Dolphins supporters, this will sting for years. They'll remember the highlights, the excitement, the feeling that anything was possible whenever number 10 touched the ball. And now, they'll be left with the haunting thought of what could have been. For the NFL, though, this is fuel for the never-ending spectacle. Because in football, just like in drama, sometimes the most shocking exits make for the most unforgettable stories. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.